Township. Thank you.
Sir, I would ask you for that same report if, to help all municipalities across Pennsylvania, give your same report to our state legislators, and they might be able to help us.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, sir?
I said, in order to help municipalities across the whole state, I think your report might be well received in Harrisburg for our legislators to help us with the laws we have to follow.
Thank you, I'm honored. I will send it. Thank you, and I'll give a copy to the reporter as well. Thank you all.
I'm Jonathan Williams. I live at 173 Liberty Boulevard. And while I fully endorse the establishment of a 2,500-foot setback, the points that I have to make really have to do no matter what the setbacks are set, whether it's 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, or what. What are these points? They're issues of compliance, accountability, and safety. They deal with the safety and health, not only for those closest to any drilling and operations, but for the entire community of Cecil Township. What are some of these? Noise, and we heard earlier from the engineer, and we need to establish ambient levels before any construction. Then during construction and operation, we need to require no more than 5 decibels above that ambient level for a period of 10 minutes in any 1-hour period. Applicants should be required to set up noise monitoring and report on a regular basis to the township or after complaints are received by the township. Set similar time limits on operating machinery and require full enclosure of machinery after a specified number of violations. Truck traffic will create additional noise and must be limited. Importantly, we must limit the operations to 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, federal and state holidays accepted. Let me deal with water impoundments. Impoundments and tanks should be no closer than 500 feet to the operator's external property lines, and specifically must be permitted by the State Department of Environmental Protection. 8-foot-high fences must surround impoundments, and the hazardous waste signs must be on the fences, and there should be netting to protect birds. Lighting, not to be directed outside the property of the drillers. Emergency and safety. The emergency response plan must be established, provided to the township and to the first responders, such as fire, emergency medical providers, and health. Training must be provided and repeated, because in these volunteer associations that are our fire companies, people come in, come out. We need to have continual training. Again, I really compliment you for dealing with these issues and listening to us. I know that sometimes these things are referred to as rules and regulations, but I hope you will agree with me. These are protections that we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll break at 7:30. We'll break at 7:30.
I have another difficult French name to spell.
Depends on how many people get up to go to the bathroom.
My name is Ted Levesque. I'm at 360 Victory Lane, Canonsburg. I am a member of the Traditions of America Steering Committee. I'd like to thank the Cecil Township Board of Supervisors for your thoughtful consideration to changes in the oil and gas ordinances. After many years of operating under the original ordinances, it is wise at this time to evaluate and address the experiences and concerns of citizens within the township. Years ago, this board approved the plan for Traditions of America to develop a planned community for 55 and older residents. To date, 211 homes are occupied and additional 141 homes are to be built. The majority of TOA residents move from surrounding townships. Many move from out of state. This has created a stronger tax base for the township. We invested here at TOA to live out our retirement years without noise, traffic, and possible health concerns that many of our residents have expressed tonight associated with the oil and gas industry. As you will hear tonight, there are also concerns associated with the unlikely yet real possibility of emergency events that can play out in the process of drilling wells and gas production. We ask that strong regulations of operations along with compliance assurances be in place to protect our citizens. In studying this issue, we discovered many states and communities with healthy gas and oil operations have stronger operating requirements than Cecil Township does now. As part of our due diligence in studying the ordinances, we reached out to Range Resources and accepted their offer to meet and visit an active drilling site and well. Range indicated with 90% assurance that they have no interest in drilling near the TOA community. Reality, however, is if another gas and oil company obtained the rights for the nearby sites nearby TOA, they could decide to drill within 500 feet of homes with the current ordinance. It is logical to some of us that our proximity to Peters Township makes our location desirable to reach gas deposits under a township that has stronger restrictions than we do. Many of our people in the community are not anti-fracking, but the one takeaway for me and the others in our tour was for our visit to the drilling and well sites, along with research we have studied, that this is an industry that should not be operating near residential communities. Members of our community have asked that the setbacks be at 2,500 feet. Since that's not possible, I ask that the setbacks be the furthest distance possible from protected structures. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're considering at this point.
I told her we'd break at 7:30, so she could break. She complained last time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gary Lipner, 411 Independence Way, Traditions of America. I'd first like to thank the Board of Supervisors for all your time, energy, and effort. I hope everything you hear here tonight will help you make an educated decision to protect all the citizens in Cecil Township. It's a great community, it's great people, we love it here. During my time in the military, which was 4 years between 1971 and 1975, I was directly involved with firefighting and disaster preparation on board a ship. Planning for a disaster is not easy. It's challenging because you never know what to expect. After I got out of the military, honorably discharged, I was a professional firefighter, where we trained for all kind of disasters all the time, visiting businesses and sites to know how to deal with certain situations. You can't plan for everything, and sometimes things go really wrong quickly. I've experienced and I have experienced that unexpected can happen and can result in a disastrous situation. For example, the East Palestine derailment. Those people's lives and community has changed forever. It'll never be the same there. A disaster that no one really expected or planned for, and look what happened. What I witnessed at the drill site has the potential to be a disaster. Therefore, I ask, what is the disaster plan? Is there an evacuation plan for nearby residents? Do they lock down? Do they evacuate or kiss their butts goodbye? We really don't know if not just Range, but any fracking company has a designated plan to protect the residents and their workers. What chemicals might be released if a disaster occurs? How long will the response time be? We were a paid fire department. Our response time was quick. I have nothing against volunteer firefighters or their hard work that they do, but the response time can be delayed by the time they get to the station, out on a rig, and out to a scene of an incident. What plan is there? Unfortunately, bad things do happen, even with the best of planning. A disaster happening near homes and schools can potentially turn into a loss of life situation. Are the fracking companies ready for this type of situation? We cannot assume that they have a disaster plan. Protecting all the residents of Cecil Township should be your first concern. I know you have a hard job and a tough decision to make, but I really, really hope that the information that you hear tonight will help you make a decision that will protect everyone in Cecil Township. This is our new home, and we love it here, and we are not against fracking, but we want everyone to be safe and healthy. Thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated, and good evening to everyone.
My name is James Feeney, 602 President's Drive, Cannonsburg. I also live in Traditions of America. And first of all, I wish to thank the board for your past work to really look at the ordinances and make sure that the degree of safety is increased in it. So I appreciate the, does this come through? Yeah, I appreciate the activities you've done so far to strengthen those regulations. However, I have an additional concern which builds upon what Gary just said regarding township first responders. First, a word regarding my background. I have over 40 years' experience in the chemical production industry worldwide. I understand the need to be very aware of the inherent risks in chemical processes, of which a fracking site is a chemical process. The fracking process does include a return flow, which from deep underground, it may include additional hazardous, potentially hazardous material. Based on the 2020 PA Grand Jury report, some testing that was done within residences near fracking sites did identify the presence of several chemicals which do exist in the EPA extremely hazardous substance list. These include benzene, toluene, and xylene, which you heard from my earlier colleagues, create serious medical concerns. Accidents can and do happen. Anything designed by humans can fail. I do not claim that the people who operate and maintain and design these facilities are somehow inferior. They may be, and I hope they are, the best in the business. But I have helped investigate deadly accidents which occurred near chemical manufacturing sites. And the companies involved at that time were considered the best in the business. It can happen. For the safety and well-being of township first responders, not to mention residents that are currently living near fracking sites, independent and and ongoing monitoring and testing of water, fluids, and air emissions must be implemented to understand exactly what toxins are in fact present. And further, until such testing can verify that the whatever setback we're looking at, 1,000, 1,500 feet, 1,800 feet, that setback is what the ordinances will contain. Until that can be verified that it is completely safe for our residents and the first responders to be able to monitor those situations, it seems very reasonable and prudent to increase the setback farther, as in the distances noted in the current PA House Bill 170 and Senate Bill 581, that being a 2,500-foot setback. Taking these steps would seem to particularly support the goal number 3 in the 2023 Cecil Township Comprehensive Plan, the last words ending with, "ensure the health and safety of the community." Please follow your stated plan.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Terry Scott, 145 Black Oak Lane, McConnell Trails. Thank you for having me back. Last time I was here, my topic was common sense. Tonight, let's talk a little bit about transparency. In order to pass these sort of things, it has to be fair and honest. And if you are receiving a financial interest from one of these companies, I think it's obvious that you need to recuse yourself. It's an obvious conflict of interest. You're receiving funds from a company that you're voting on. So, I mean, I don't know how much more obvious it could be. It's a conflict of interest. We've already had someone admit that they are receiving financial interest, so I hope you do the right thing and recuse yourself. In addition, I'd like to get into the law, the specific law that was brought up at the beginning saying that we have to allow more drilling or areas to drill. I would like the citation for that law saying that we cannot have a 2,500-foot setback and an explanation as to why South Fayette and Peters Township can have no wells allowed to be drilled. So can that be provided, or?
The question you just asked about South Fayette or maybe Peters, there might be not be wells right now, but there will be eventually.
No, that's not.
The drilling industry says they have leases in all those municipalities. Whether they choose to drill there yet or not, that's another story, and we have no control over that.
Okay, can I get the law that cites that we can't have a 2,500-foot setback?
The law says that we can't zone them out of existence. So when we look at the map of 2,500 square feet, we've zoned them out. That's against the law. We cannot do it.
But we already
as much as we'd like to.
But if we already have some, we're not zoning them out. They're already here.
But they're only in one half of the township.
What?
You saw the map we had up here.
Yeah.
They're
Is there a
only-
law saying that we have to have wells all over the township?
They have to be able to drill all over the township.
No.
I mean, I said we can't ban them. As much as we'd like to do 3,000 feet,
Okay.
we can't break the law. Nobody up here is
Okay.
going to vote to break the law.
Okay, to be clear, I just want to know what that law, a citation, or where we can find that law.
Okay.
I would actually like to
Get it.
hear that from our solicitor, because
Yes.
I think that's.
Yes, so I think what the chairman was saying, what the chairman was saying is that you can't exclude them from zoning, you can't be prohibitive and prohibit them out of Cecil Township, and the board is trying to find the right fit where there is some ability while still protecting the residents as much as they can. So there's no magic number.
Okay.
I think this last map we showed you, I think the number was about 1% of the municipality became available. If that upstands court scrutiny, I think it will.
Okay. My question then is, like, when will there ever be, like, if you can always have to allow them a spot to drill, when will it ever end? If you got one drilling and then you have to say, oh, we have to allow room for another one and another one and another one. I mean, obviously it has to end somewhere. You can only have so many. So I don't understand. We already have some. Why do we have to have
Right.
room to have more?
And the existing ones were taken into account with this last map. That was
Right.
one of the factors, the fact that they do have so many existing well pads covering acreage in the township. That was a factor that was taken into account. This board will need to decide how much more aggressive they think, they want to be and can be. Of course, they are also weighing whether it's going to, pass a substantive validity challenge. So they're thinking about that as well. But they're playing around and what I'll say tweaking, these factors and processes to figure out where that right number is.
Okay.
We've spent a significant amount of time looking at ordinances that have stood up in court. And so what we're trying to accomplish right now is create an ordinance that is most protective of our residents with the most restrictions that we can possibly include that will stand up in court. We don't want to go into court with this super restrictive ordinance and this super restrictive map and have it thrown out because we'll have to start back at square one. So what Tom is trying to say, what the chairman's trying to say is our goal is to look at our township and say we can't restrict them out. We can't restrict them out, but where can we allow them that allows them most distance? And then if they challenge our ordinance and take us to court, it will hold up in court. And that's why our solicitor mentioned at the beginning that we looked at Murraysville because that stood up to a challenge, to a court challenge. So South and Peters have very restrictive ordinances, and while I'm sure they believe that they will hold them in court, they haven't actually been challenged. So our goal is to make sure that whatever we write will hold up in court.
One final thing, just so we understand. Again, it's stated that we have to have room for them to be able to drill. But there has to be an end point. Like if there's 3 spaces left for them to drill, and they drill in those 3 spaces, and then what happens? Do we have to open up 3 more spaces?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. So essentially what we're doing now is we took a look at the entire township and we said, Supervisor Cecil is correct. We can't zone any industry out. We can't say they can't come. But what we can do is take a look at our map and say, okay, this is where it fits in our township. We haven't done that in the past. This is where it fits. If it works for them, fine. And if it doesn't, then that's how it is too. We don't make special exceptions for other industries, and we're not going to do it for them. But we're saying this is where it works for us.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hey, hold it, wait a second.
Hold on.
I know our
Hold on.
recorder needs a break too. We need, anybody wants to use the restroom, let's take a 10 or 15-minute break.
Before you go, there's a Dodge Durango in the parking lot, license plate MJH6856 that's beeping. So if it's yours, you sat on your key fob or something. Our court reporter needs 5 minutes.
He says, keep going. They're going to go out and grab us. You know, the thing of it is, they're talking about all this trouble and everything. But what about this COVID stuff back in 2019?
I'll do it.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna get it.
Peters, it's an
All right.
they use it as zone base. In South Fayette, they do a distance.
We got to get back to our meeting. Would you please take your seats? We're going to get started with or without you.
Yeah, I can.
Because the Cannonsburg Dam has an F rating right now.
Okay, okay.
Please take your seats.
Where's Bill and Frank?
They want to smoke? Please try to find your seats. All right, we're going to have a speaker now, so please give them your attention. Go ahead. They'll stop when they hear you.
Test, test.
Yep.
Testing.
All right, Justin Roman. I live in the Overlook Plan, 2025 Dantry Drive. So, first of all, thank you for realizing that the ordinance today do not meet the needs of the growing community. You know, that is definitely evident. You can't hear me? All right, test, test. Okay. So thank you again for having this and reviewing the ordinance. This is very crucial to the development of the community. I think everyone realizes that. The testimony that came before me today and the expert review, that opened up so much more than what this is. This is an ordinance ordinance hearing, but this is so much more than an ordinance. You know, this is everyone's life, everyone's health, financials, you know, everything that goes into this is so much more than just an ordinance. So these are people. I think everyone realizes that, but I think we get lost in that. So just, you know, these are people we're dealing with that these ordinances really impact day to day. That I did not want to say that, but just I felt like I needed to from just looking at everyone that talked before me. So what I did want to talk about is first property values. I am the HOA vice president for the community that I live in Overlook. One of our responsibilities when we're elected is to protect the property value. Having any kind of well, any kind of industrial area that is in earshot or visual to where we live is no way good for property value. I think everyone here, if you're for or against oil and gas, can agree with that. So whatever new map is drawn, I hope that's taken into consideration. There's also an opportunity cost that every time that you make a decision to say, hey, something could be built here or a different zone, there's an opportunity cost to that we can't grow the community. Because that zone isn't that we're going to build more houses, which also increases the tax base, and we're not going to grow the coffers, really. So there's a bunch of opportunity costs lost in whatever decisions made here. The second thing I really want to bring up was the setbacks to schools. I have 2 kids in school here. One thing that I noticed is there is an abundance of caution in the decisions that the school makes. For closing schools, we had to close closures because of floods in Cecil. I applaud that. I think that's great. We had a closure more recently because there was a solar eclipse, and the timing of it, abundance of caution. I never thought I'd see that, but abundance of caution. With anything with oil and gas, in any kind of these ordinance, there needs to be an abundance of caution. We've already heard testimony that no matter what we say and do, the jaws and the teeth of it aren't fully there. So how do we say, hey, the sound ordinance is being broken? The teeth of it needs to be there to be able to really have that caution too. So what I want to see is whatever the schools have the setback to, is that any R2 plan is similar to that setback. There are more kids in our neighborhood than would fill up one school. So Hills Hendersonville, pretty much the whole school is our neighborhood. So the kids spend more time at home, summers, during the day. There's more people working from home now since 2020. You know, that just keeps increasing. So the abundance of caution needs to be there for whatever setback to match whatever school setback there is.
All right.
So
Thank you.
the one last point I want to make is this decision, and the reason it's polarizing, is because it's money versus health. And why are we making that call? This should be, if health should trump anything else.
All right, we got you. We understand
So-
your point.
It looks like we're gonna have another meeting. I'll talk about everything else next time.
Okay.
So,
Thank
looking
you.
forward to it.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Leah Libner. I live at 411 Independence Way, Traditions of America. First, I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for taking on this task. It's not easy to sit through these hearings, and it's a hard thing to do, and you need to be commended for that to get the community input. Next, I'd like to present for the record a petition as of tonight signed by 190 residents in Traditions of America with action items 2,000 to 2,500 feet setbacks from all residences, and a rigorous enforcement of these setbacks. Which part?
After the setback, for all residents.
The action items, 2,000 to 2,500 feet setbacks for all residents. And then the next one was rigorous enforcement of the setbacks. Next. I'd like to help you out a little bit. The last time I was here and spoke before you, I heard it repeated over and over that you cannot zone fracking out of a community. That was true from 1970 until 2013. The PA Supreme Court said state cannot force fracking on local communities. I have a copy of that for you also. Last Wednesday, 6 TOA residents went to TOA, met with some of their engineers, not TOA, Range, and met with some of their engineers. We visited the Augustine and Mount Pleasant sites. Let me tell you, I got off the bus, the smell, the taste of diesel fuel in my mouth is unacceptable, and that no one should be forced to live 500 feet from that. What that did was strengthen my resolve to ask for 2,000 to 2,500 feet setbacks. Health and safety of all residents in Cecil Township should be the highest priority. I'm not opposed to fracking if it's done in a reasonable manner, strict health and safety laws, and ensure all older oil and gas companies follow those rules. A little bit about myself before I say thank you. I'm a retired Pittsburgh public school teacher, and I am retired vice president of the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Michael Studd. Address is 5015 Furwood Drive from Oak Brook Estates. Just to let the board know, I moved here with my family several years ago now, over a decade ago, because I fell in love with this area. We looked at many different communities, and we just absolutely fell in love with Cecil and everything that it offered, everything that it was offering, what it was doing for professionals, what it was doing for young families to come into the community. And we couldn't have been happier. Now that we are looking at this aspect of our health and our safety for our family, for our children, for our residents, I'm just hoping that each one of you will follow this same principle when looking at this, this current topic. The one thing I also wanted to let everybody know, I am actually an attorney, so I respect what you've done with the map, and I understand the hardships that you have undergone in maybe getting what we are all asking for. I did do some independent research on this topic this week. I think that the current proposed map, while maybe it could or could not be tightened up more, is a very good start or a solution to the current issues with also surviving a legal challenge that I'm sure would probably come from range resources. I would love it to be farther apart, and I'm sure everybody, or most everybody in this room would as well, but I do understand that portion. The one thing I would like to say, though, as being an attorney and working with municipalities and judges, I think the commissioner made a very good point earlier when he said you guys are the judges of this particular issue. I think you are. You're going to decide at the end of the day about the facts that you heard. And the facts that you heard at this meeting are very, very clear, right? I mean, there is proof presented that this will lead to increase in asthmatic attacks. Childhood cancer rate will increase. The noise level are not appropriate at these sites. These are all facts that were presented in front of you with really no countering facts. It's probably one of the easier cases that you would ever have if you were an actual judge. The only way that I could actually think that you would not vote unanimously to change the current ordinances is if you did have a conflict of interest or another reason financially to not support this change. Just because you have a conflict of interest, that is not necessarily a bad thing. I think we had a commissioner here tonight, Commissioner Barney, that said she had a conflict of interest. I commend her for that. I don't think it's bad that you have one. We all may have one, but it's bad if you vote on this issue, if you have one. So what I will tell you is I have been working not only within my own HOA, but with a collection of HOAs of almost every community in this township that are the larger communities. We will be looking. We feel that there are 2 commissioners currently that have conflicts of interest. I think you know who you are. We will be watching how you vote. If it's hey, I'm conflicted, I'm not going to vote, I would not hold that against you. If you vote, though, for your pocketbook versus the health and safety of the residents, I will promise you that our collective communities will do anything that we can in our power to reflect how you voted the next time you are up for re-election. Lastly, that is, again, a group of thousands upon thousands of homes in this community, because it's not just our community, it is a collective force that has been put together most recently. So we would ask you to vote, as I just mentioned.
I
Thank
need
you
to
for your
clarify
time.
something you said. Supervisor Barney didn't say she had a conflict. She says she has leases. And the conflicts could fall under the wait a minute, listen.
Yep.
Conflicts fall under the ethics law. And if you have a true conflict, it's a moral or an ethical issue, but there's no law about it. This board, with our solicitor, we're very cognizant of issues that come up among board members, and we're always on that. It actually protects our board members if we make sure they know it's a conflict where they should recuse themselves.
Understand
we're on it.
Yeah, understand there's a legal definition of contract and then a moral one. Well, the reason I reflected Commissioner Barney is when a gentleman earlier asked if there was a conflict. I believe she said yes, on the record.
I said,
Yeah, unless I'm wrong.
okay, how long have you been living in a township, sir? Can I ask you that question? Oh, listen.
So
How long have you been living in a...
you can, and I would love to have that conversation. I've been living in it for over a decade. Now, what I will tell you is, if you're, I'll let you say your piece on that. Go ahead.
So you've been here a decade?
A little bit over, yes.
Okay. So I've been taking my farm, and I've had leases. Am I supposed to end up not reaping the benefits from my land that's been in generation after generation in Cecil Township, living here my whole life?
No,
Okay.
no.
Enough said.
No, you. So my answer to your question, since I was asked a question,
Yeah, let him.
Well,
let him
she
ask.
asked me a question. I just, very short answer. I've been pretty respectful. Sure. My answer to that was, the question was if you should be able to reap what you are owed from generations, and you absolutely should reap what you are owed. What you should not do is vote on a matter, though.
Thank you.
If you are reaping those benefits. So that's where I would ask you to recuse yourself.
All right, Mike, thank you.
Tommy will have to recuse himself, too.
Good evening, everyone. Laurel Zimba, Director of Public Affairs for Range Resources, and also a 20-year resident of
Please
Cecil
give her
Township.
some attention, please.
Okay. Laurel Zimba, Z-I-E-M-B-A. Thank you so much for allowing us to provide public comment on the proposed ordinance amendments to the oil and gas ordinance. I want to start by thanking you also for taking a tour of our operations. In fact, over the course of the last 10 days, we've hosted local government and community members on 4 separate trips to meet with our employees and to tour a combination of drilling and producing well pads. I'm grateful for the opportunity to explain the activity on pad and to indicate the enhanced noise mitigation that we've deployed in an attempt to lessen the discomfort that nearby residents have experienced. We will continue to make our employees and our operations available to the community as we continue to develop this resource. Speaking of community outreach, I felt it deserved to be mentioned. At Range Resources, we manage a vibrant community outreach program, which includes our corporate charitable giving and employee volunteer programs. Over a 15-year span.
All right. All right.
Stop.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to calm down. Everybody has their chance to speak.
May I have that 10 seconds back, please?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
You're going to have 10 minutes because you're a professional.
Okay.
Everybody else did.
Which includes our corporate charitable giving and employee volunteer programs. Over a 15-year span, Range has donated over $12 million directly to nonprofit organizations, and our employees have volunteered over 17,000 hours to support causes in our local communities. Giving back is woven through our community culture, our company culture, and our employees at every level of company management participate in volunteerism. In 2023, we gave to 419 unique nonprofit organizations. Included in that number are organizations that directly support Cecil Township and Cannon Mac School District. Over the past 5 years, Range has donated over $184,000 to Cecil Township, including $55,000 to Cecil Township Police and Fire Departments, $55,000 to educational initiatives at Cannon Mac School District, $32,000 to youth extracurricular activities, and $42,000 to Cecil Township and the Parks and Rec Department, including funding for handicap swings at Lawrence Park. Now, it's important to talk about the economic benefits of natural gas as well. To that end, I want to highlight Governor Shapiro's recently remarks on CBS's Face the Nation program regarding President Biden's pause on liquefied natural gas exports. Governor Shapiro said, if the pause goes on for a long time, it has the potential to cost us jobs. Our governor acknowledges the important benefits that shale development represents to Pennsylvania and the economic benefits that reach into the billions of dollars. However, an export pause isn't the only action that can cost jobs. Decisions made on a local level can have dire implications on natural gas development and send the wrong message from a township that many energy companies in South Point call home. I urge the board to think of the implications that decisions made in this township will have on a larger level. I'm very encouraged by the open line of communication that Range has established with the township, and I encourage the board to continue working with the community and with Range on an acceptable path forward with regard to updating the oil and gas ordinance. I did want to make a comment on Padre, if you wouldn't mind. There's a gentleman here who asked about our PPC plan. We do have a copy of those PPC plans at each location. It's included within the ordinance packet, and then we also have offer tours to first responders of our well pads, in addition to inviting them to drills at our building. Earlier today, Range provided comments to the board on the April draft amendments to the township's oil and gas ordinance. I have a copy of those with me, and I would ask that they be included in the record for tonight's hearing. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Is that what was? Is that what? I forwarded it to you guys earlier.
Ready?
Give her your name.
Hello, my name's Mike Monaco. I'm on 1440 Rising Road, McDonald, PA. I'm kind of confused about this whole operation. My understanding was, or I don't have an understanding of, when is the question and answering period of any taxpayer questioning some of your experts, some of the opinions, which I considered testimony, that you guys disclosed to us during this whole meeting? We haven't had a chance to dispute anything. When does that happen?
That happens from here on in. There'll be a
When?
there'll be a 30-day period before we schedule the next public hearing. So in that time, you can submit questions, and hopefully we'll have answers before. If you ask us right on the spot, we have to say we probably don't know.
Okay.
So you'll have 30 days to before the
That
next
really
hearing.
doesn't work, Tom, because last time, I have 4 questions here, I expected an answer to. When Dan was here, quite honest, he ain't here. One of them was, based on the overlays that he did at 500 and 1,000, my question was, how much ground or acreage was excluded by going to 1,000 feet in relation to what we have now? Do you have that answer?
Yes, we have it. Dan answered. I think Darlene promoted that question. But the point is, we're past that now. If you see the new one, it's not. We're not even looking at that one anymore.
Well, that's another issue. Didn't this go in front of the planning board?
Yes, and we'll have to send the next one to the next changes to them also.
Historically, you would have a question and answer work group that would address all this before you kind of design these ordinances.
No, it's not a
Where
question and answer. The planning commission will review it, make comments, or ask
Not the
questions.
planning commission. Historically, when you even drafted an ordinance, you'd have a work group, and the taxpayer would ask questions, you'd have your experts,
No,
things would
What do you mean
pass
historically?
through.
Historically, we have hearings to have
That's not true.
public input. Sure it is.
No,
I've been here longer than you, Mike.
How do I address any of these experts?
You ask the questions, and we will get the questions to them. They might not be able to answer it here right now, but the point is, we don't have time for
So
that.
I got 3
Submit
minutes to ask your guy that was 10
No,
minutes
so
up
put
there.
it in writing and give it to us in advance. And meanwhile, you can talk your time, but you don't have to ask your questions now, because most likely we can't answer them. You know that. Give it to us, we'll have an
But
answer
you
for the
haven't
next
answered
meeting.
any of my questions.
Well,
That's my problem.
We have answers to those 4 you asked, but I'm
Well, I'm
saying.
going to continue to ask questions. then.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Well, I could take your time.
Hold on, Tom. I was told not to give any answers to these. I mean, to display
No,
these, give these answers to the residents.
It's public information, give it to them.
Okay.
We paid for it.
Okay, but
So
right
sure,
on the
you-
bottom, it
the-
says it's confidential information. I'm
And-
not allowed
and-
to relay this to
initially
a
until the-
resident.
Until the board gets it, then we release it to the public. The board releases it, not you, all right? And you'll be safe. So you'll get them, Mike, and ask away.
Based on the current well permits, if you went to 1,000 feet, and I used 1,000 feet, I think all those wells would have been excluded, which would violate the Title 58 and Act 13 that you're trying to comply with. That's what I want an answer.
I can
Would
answer
those
you.
have been
It
excluded?
doesn't matter now, Mike, we're not using that 1,000-foot map, so if we were, we'd have to
That's
answer
nice,
it.
Tom, but I'm here today to ask you questions, and they're irrelevant because you never answered them.
Because you're asking on a map that's no longer under consideration. Just move on to something. Here's the map now. Ask us questions about this one. We're
Okay.
past that map.
I will. Based on the proposal you have, that's 99% of of the land that's going to be excluded. That's considered a cardinal change in the legal world. That requires specific conditions to be met. And one of them is to publish it in the proper fashion so that taxpayers can understand exactly what you're doing
And it will be.
why.
It will be. This is the first presentation. We haven't publicly put it out yet, but the residents are here, so we're giving them basically a preview.
How did we influence that? How did any of my questions influence that? It didn't.
Say that again?
How did any of my questions influence your design? But that design was used to draft an ordinance that basically, no offense, and I'm going to challenge your sound ordinance or sound study, because you personally told me that was used to support a complaint. I read that thing. There was one sentence that basically said that Raines performed. The rest of the document was a hit piece on what the ordinance should be, what it can be, and how they would support it.
Mike,
it was
then
never used.
Listen, we're upgrading our ordinance, and we brought a sound expert
Yeah,
in
but
this
you,
time.
when
We
was
didn't have
he
one
hired?
last time.
When was he hired?
Tom, go
I
back
don't know
and
what day
forth.
exactly.
Mike, yeah, We have more than 3 minutes. Let the other people talk. If you want to
Well,
come
I'd like
back
to
at
claim
the end.
somebody else's 3 minutes.
No, you can't. All right, Mike.
3 minutes ain't up yet.
Mike,
Three
go ahead.
minutes ain't up yet because I stop it when they talk.
Oh, it ain't up yet.
She stops
Well, I'd like
whenever
to
we talk.
claim
Quit
somebody
arguing
else's
back and
minutes. 'Cause
forth.
I'm
Let
really not
them
done. I haven't even got
talk and
started.
then let
All right,
him
go ahead,
come
Mike.
back.
Finish up.
Well, that's my point. You now are drafting ordinances, or how many? What version is this?
You'll have it tomorrow, maybe the third or fourth. It's
At
a work in-
least.
It's a work in
But
progress.
my understanding, you told me that that ordinance was geared to taxpayer input, and also experts. Has there any conversation been done with Range, and then why aren't they here challenging these experts? Why, were they invited? No, they ain't. I'm talking about technical people.
Wait, time out.
They talk to us all the
There's a lot
time.
of people left to speak, and we're good till 9. We will answer your, if you want questions, we will answer them. I can email you. I have the answers to her questions. If she doesn't email them to you, I can email it to you. No, he doesn't have more time.
All right.
You
She
people
has a
talking.
timer. Go ahead, Darlene.
I've been stopping it whenever you
All right.
Stop talking and let him finish up.
Go ahead, Darlene.
So we have a lot of people.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, you answered it. One of them, the planning commission, have they even addressed any of these?
Yes, every plan.
Where are the results?
We have them, but the point is, it's a new one. We're sending it to them tomorrow. Actually, how soon will they get them?
Depends on
When is this
board
gonna
is
start?
ready to advertise it.
Okay.
Depending on what you hear tonight, you may.
Right, we're getting comments. Go ahead, tell them that, Gretchen.
So the
Well, it's a-
ordinance has not been formally advertised because we're getting board input. They're listening to people tonight, they're listening to the residents and taxpayers and the experts. The board then will decide what it wants to push out and advertise, which it will go through all the procedural processes it has to go through, but it's just not there yet. I don't know when it's going to be.
But Ms.
I think
Moore,
tomorrow's too
there's
early,
no
but
possible
it will
way
be
that I
soon.
can ask questions that are relative to what you're doing.
Of course not. That's why you have to come next month. You'll see it in a
Right,
few days.
this will be formally advertised for a hearing
After
in
it's
June.
prepared, after there's collusion between everybody that's involved, creates a draft, and then we have to address the draft that's already been corrupted. That's my problem.
It's not corrupted, it's a work in
It
progress.
is corrupted
It's-
because
All right,
you
Mike,
have expert witnesses
all
that
right,
can't be
we're
challenged.
not getting anywhere with this, Mike. You're gonna see a draft, the new draft, as soon as we have it, and you can comment on it all you want. You have 30 days at least. Come on, who's next?
Hello, my name is Julie Devano. I live on Grange Road.
Please make sure you speak up.
Can you hear? Okay. I think most of us understand that this is an evolving process, and we appreciate the fact that you were trying to think creatively and went ahead and, came up with the new map, the new approach. We thank you for that. We're glad that you're looking at this. I think, and that's because it's very clear from listening to all of the speakers, the residents in the room, this meeting and last, that the vast majority of the residents here and representing really want meaningful, I guess setbacks really aren't appropriate anymore, but want meaningful change to the ordinance to protect our families and our properties and our health and well-being. Let's see, I had to change my notes because the map kind of changed, but the current setbacks we know are totally unacceptable. I live about a mile, as the crow flies, I guess, from a well, and we often hear it. It's very loud. We always say how badly we feel for the people that live by that. People say it's always the same few complaining, but that's because they're the most impacted, and we're grateful that they brought our attention to it. If they didn't, no one would know or may not know that this is going on and how important it is for us to speak up. The setbacks, we've talked about before that they should be the closest resident should be the leaseholder. People often say, oh, people have a not in my backyard mentality. I don't think that's the case. I think we have a not in anyone's backyard mentality. It shouldn't be there. Only the leaseholders have a not in my backyard. They want to put it in their neighbor's backyard, but not theirs. And last but not least, I'm a CPA. I've been a controller for private, public, nonprofit, for-profit companies. I've sat on many boards, many financial oversight committees, and every legitimate board, whether it's corporate, governance, municipal, they make sure that members are recused from voting when they have a conflict of interest. There is such a thing as a financial conflict of interest, or even there is such a thing as a financial conflict of interest or even a perceived conflict of interest. If you're a legitimate board, you should be recusing any board member or any member with an immediate family member getting checks from the industry. They're not independent. It's clearly a conflict, and it compromises their ability to vote in the interest of the residents, as you've sworn to do, instead of your own self-interest. Someone said, let's hope you do the right things and recuse yourself. Let's not hope, let's require it. It's the right thing to do.
You know, there's an easy answer to that. We can ask the Ethics Commission to make a ruling. That's what they do. So if an issue comes up, if a board member doesn't know if they're conflicted or if there's an accusation, they're the ones that make the determination. So do you have a problem if we write to them and ask them of a
We got a solicitor right here. Why can't she
She doesn't
do
make
it
that
for us?
decision. She absolutely does
The
not make that
fact that you have a check in your purse right now with a name range on it is a conflict.
I told you, there's
It's clearly
a
conflict.
mechanism for that, so let us work that, okay?
Well, also at the last board meeting, we heard several board members give their thoughts. One said that she feels bad for the residents that are being impacted, but can't do anything about it, hope for the best. Well, you people are the ones that can't. You have the power to do something and help the residents. You can vote the drilling out of the residential areas. Another board member said he was a problem solver. Good, I'm glad, because look around, this is a problem. And the way to solve it is to take the industry out of the residential areas. Please listen to the majority of the speakers at these meetings and do something just like you asked Range to do. Don't just listen, do something. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Christine DiGiulio, D-I-G. My name is Christine DiGiulio, D-I-G-U-I-L-I-O. I live at 438 Dogwood Lane. Obviously, I take care of people for a living. I'm a nurse. My biggest concern about fracking in our community is the risk of cancer. I see people every day struggle with cancer. We are exposed to so many things, and when we have the ability to put those things as far away from us as we can, then we should. You do not want to see people suffer with cancer. Your next generations, you don't want to see suffer from cancer. I'm sure everyone in this room, on this board, has known somebody or been a family member of somebody who has died or struggled with cancer. This is not something that we want here for our children, for our elderly, for anybody in the community. The maximum distance that we can vote for, I understand you're saying that they still have to be here in our community. If that is the case, then we need to find the maximum distance that we can distance ourselves from these things. It's how can we live as a community if we start dying from cancer, if we start poisoning our water? It just shouldn't be here. This isn't the last place on earth to drill. If it were the last place on earth to drill, and it was our last ability to get natural gas, and this is what would keep us, our species surviving, I could understand it. But this is not, and this is probably not what anybody wants. Nobody wants to be ill. But it has to be farther away, as far as we can get that. I would hope that everyone here would vote to keep our community safe. That is what you do. And regardless of whether you've allowed leasing on your community or you do those things for yourself as members, you still have to vote for the health of the community. That was your individual choice, but your individual choice does not apply to the rest of us, and you should consider the entire community. I know Range spoke also of how they've made donations and things to our community. They can have all that money back because all corporations and all companies make donations. They make donations everywhere. And it serves a wonderful tax write-off for them. And I understand that they want to uplift the community and they want to look good in the community. I think that's fantastic and be supportive. But they should not expect something back, which is our health. That is not acceptable. If buying our health is something that's okay, then I could see why you would vote differently. But you cannot sell our health. This is too important. Our generations won't thrive here if we waste everything that we have here. We just can't live that way. And so I ask that you consider that when you vote, that as far away as we can be from residential areas, that we would do that. Thank you for your time.
Hello. My name is Dave Templeton. I'm a former reporter with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the Post-Gazette. I'm no longer associated with the newspaper. What I want to say is that there is no community in Western Pennsylvania, arguably, that has had a more tragic impact, and most likely from pollution. We did a study 5 years ago, and within a mile down the street here, 3 young men died from Ewing sarcoma who lived within blocks of each other. There were 3 other Ewing sarcomas in the Cannon-McMillan School District. 5 years ago, there were 11 kids with cancer in the Cannon-McMillan School District, including 4 additional sarcomas. Now, we know one thing about Ewing sarcoma. It's caused by one thing that is at least recognized, radium. Fracking generates radium galore, and it's now being disposed of, in large part, in our landfills. But they also, but it also comes from venting and other things. We also know, and I thank Dr. Fabiziak and others who've done research, because they're now associating at the dismay of the industry. They're now associating fracking with cancers, leukemias, and lymphomas, and I would say arguably, if they look close enough and look at this area, they're going to find sarcomas and other things that are radium-induced because they use particulates, they generate particulates, chemicals, radiation. That's about the full gamut of pollution. So what I want to say is whenever you generate pollution, science is clear. There's going to be health damage. So I just want to say already there's been significant health damage in Cecil. And with another well and more wells as close by as Augustine, the result will be health damage. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Bill Eliamis. I live at 524 Cherry Hill Drive.
One more time, Bill.
Bill Eliamis, E-L-E-A-M-O-S, a name you probably never heard of before. There's not many of us left. In this area anyways. I'm up here speaking not on behalf of myself, but my daughter and grandchildren. And I just want to state that I'm glad I'm not sitting in any of your seats. You hold such a tremendous responsibility. I don't know how you sleep at night. I'll be honest with you. Because I've lost sleep at night, wondering what's going to happen to them. And to answer your question, I was born and raised here in Cecil Township. I'm 67 years old. I love this area. That's why I never moved out of this area.
So have I.
I hope to die in this area, but not from cancer or anything else. We have allowed in this township to be ransacked by many industries,
example, the coal industry. When I first built my home, my second new home in Cecil Township, someone mentioned to me, you should mine subsidence insurance. I said, why? He said, you'd be amazed at how much there is. I called DAP, they sent me a map. Underneath my home there were so many ones that they had that had these empty caverns left underneath my home. So now every year I pay for homeowners insurance for the coal industry. Which leads me to my next comment. I don't know if you're aware, in the Timber Run area, there were 5 homes affected by a profound chemical smell in their home. They called contractors in to check it out. It was not gas, not air conditioning, not electrical. My daughter even called an electrical contractor to check all her breakers and wiring in the house to see if that's right. It took 2 days to air the house out. They had to come sleep at my house to avoid that. You ask yourself, how could a chemical smell get in all them homes? I'll answer it for you. Where they live at is also coal mining. When they fracked 1 mile away from her house, they probably got into the tunnels of those mines. The chemical odors seeped up through the foundation, because no foundation is airtight. That's why people have radon tests done. Just another problem that can exist from what's happening. Just wanted to bring that up. I don't know if you're aware of that. Also, for the people out here, the state of Washington, Oregon, New York, Maryland, and Vermont, states have banned fracking. You all heard about Peters and South Fayette. Tom, you're saying that it's not going to fly. My question to you is, if we contacted any of these states that have banned it to find out exactly what the parameters are for us, I mean, we got 5 sites in here now. By next meeting, what I hope to see is copies of the map, which is why when you put the map up, you had this whole room roaring because nobody could understand that little map up there. We need to know with the proposed 1,500-foot setback, how many sites does that leave left in the township?
We will have this prepared for everybody, copy whenever.
Okay, well, thank you, Tom, for that.
Now we can hold it on your lap and see it. I know that's tough. It's the best we had right now.
It'll be on the website too.
That's what interrupted this meeting, because nobody could understand that. And we also need to know how many more we need to give them. If you're saying by law we need to keep them pilfering our community, how many more do we have to give them to meet the law? If it's 2, let's give them only 2 more sites and call it a day.
We are working on that, to tell you the truth.
I mean, is there a law that says we've given them 5 in our township? How many more do we have to give them to be within compliance?
Again, we might have even a better map than this next time.
Okay.
We're working on it. Thank you, Bill.
All righty, I thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is John Kamin, K-A-M-I-N. I'm an attorney with offices in Pittsburgh. About 11 years ago, I actually was in this room and had a conversation with your then sitting board members about challenging something called Act 13. You may remember that. That was the state law that allowed drilling everywhere. Along with John Smith and a friend of ours, Jordan Yeager, from across the state, we took that challenge to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and won twice. So I believe
I was there, remember, John?
I do, Tom. Yep. You were there with us, and actually you testified for us.
Yep.
So I do have some experience in oil and gas law and zoning law, and most of my practice is zoning and land use. I'm here tonight for TOA Cecil, which is the Traditions of America at South Point Development, to talk to you a little bit about your ordinance and some changes that we think you can make that would be very helpful. I did send my comments to the board by email last week. First of all, I do want to start out and say we applaud you looking at the ordinance. We think it's long overdue, and we actually think it's your legal right now to look at the ordinance as part of the Act 13 decisions that we just celebrated our 10th year anniversary on in December. A couple of things that I want you to think about as you look at the ordinance. Number one, you have to allow mineral development. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to allow surface operations everywhere. There is a distinction between what happens on the surface and what happens subsurface. You already have 5 wells in the township. The areas that you're talking about in the township may not be able to be drilled from the surface, but they certainly can be drilled, and those minerals can be accessed from other parts, other drillings that may happen in other townships. So I would encourage you, when you're looking at these maps, to think about not just what's happening on the surface in Cecil, but what is happening on the surface in other places, to see if those minerals and those oil and gas rights are actually accessible. We'll tell you that based on my read of it, they are. So the second thing I would say, and I do a lot of work for a lot of companies that have, what we consider to be noxious uses, you don't have to allow the maximally productive use. What you have to allow is the use. So think about that too when you're looking at the drilling within the township. With respect to our specific recommendations on this ordinance, we believe that 2,500 feet is appropriate. We think that that makes a ton of sense, and that also does allow for reasonable development within the township. We also believe that you must take into account in your definition of protected structures and others, subdivisions that have either major subdivisions that have approved lots or master plans that have approved lots in it. It's not fair for people who have gone ahead and created these subdivisions to find out that because the township has approved a lot, all of a sudden something comes up 6 months later and somebody who banked on having something 2,500 feet or 1,500 feet or 1,000 feet away from them now finds it in their backyard.
John, we did address that.
He's a professional. He gets 10 minutes.
Tom, go ahead.
Tom,
10 minutes.
I did see that in the last draft, and we applaud that change.
All right.
The other thing that I wanted to note about the way that you're measuring the setbacks is they're measured, at least in the latest draft I saw, from the wellhead. I think we should be looking at these setbacks from the property line.
Yeah, we'll have copies of this. And I did see your report, but I think I would like to, we'll make sure you get a copy of the latest one we're working on, that, as Gretchen said, it's going to go out shortly as soon as we're done. And we'll see how those comments fit into what we've already done, and you might see some of them in there.
Great, I appreciate that, because one of the concerns we have is that, well, the wellhead may be in the middle of a large tract of line, you can have the frac pond right on the border.
There's no frac ponds.
Well, there are.
Frac ponds has gone by the wayside.
They're not prohibited under your ordinance.
Well, but there's no fracking ponds in Cecil Township.
But not now, but they're not prohibited under the ordinance. So you can go right down the road and see plenty of them.
Gretchen has.
Yeah, I think in the most recent draft, the ponds and impoundments are prohibited, consistent with the fact that they're just not being used anymore. So we don't think that's a prohibition that we've added, but we have made them now prohibited, and the water storage tanks are allowed.
Great.
That was the
And
last-
then with regard to.
Last version, yeah.
Right.
With regard to the performance standards that we're talking about, we did have some recommendations on things that you should add into that. And one of the questions that was raised earlier, I think by Mr. Cacciola, and also the solicitor, is in the situation when we were talking about the sound studies and those types of things, as to whether or not there's compliance, we think it's appropriate to ask the operator to post financial security so that the township has a mechanism and doesn't have to go out of pocket to demonstrate that compliance. That's something that's typically done on any development. When you have a developer coming in, they post an escrow for inspections. They post an escrow for bonds on your roads. They post all of those other items. So there's no reason why you shouldn't ask an operator to post an escrow amount and an appropriate amount to make sure that these inspections can be done by the township and that the taxpayers don't have to go out of pocket to do them on their own.
Right. Hey, John, and I want to give you this. This is my copy, a paper copy that's going to be out. But if you take this one, because I know a lot of your comments tied into this, so will you take that as a paper copy, and you can help us see how we tied into some of your comments.
Well, I appreciate it, and again, I do applaud you guys looking at the ordinance. I think it's It's long overdue, and appreciate the steps that you've taken and also the updates that you've made. So
All
thank
right,
you.
thanks, John.
Hi, Adele Googe, 512 980 Road. First, I want to thank all of you for taking the time that you've put into reviewing the ordinance and the setbacks. I think a new ordinance is a good compromise and a way to protect the residents. I am 2,500 feet from a well pad. I've endured years of noise during the pad construction. When they would bring the dump trucks to build the road, they would back them up. You'd hear the dump trucks. They'd dump a whole load of gravel, on and on and on for 2 summers. So we made it through that. And the worst that we've had so far is when they drilled 4 out of 15 approved wells at the Schultz well pad. And it was 24/7 disturbing noise for months. On February 28th, Range called and told me that the noise was louder than they had anticipated that it would be. This is why it's very important that we need to take the recommendations of Mr. Thornton into account. One of his studies, as you know, was on my property, and while they were in the limits, the sound, dBA and dBC, were very, very high. The new ordinance, I believe, is a step in the right direction, but we need stronger noise, air, and water protection. If we are going to continue to approve well pads, we need to put residents as a priority. I'm asking that you do the right thing and vote in favor of the new ordinance and setbacks to protect us. And I have a question. I am in favor of expanding setbacks, but I'm concerned that Range would request additional wells on the current pad. So how would that be handled?
We can't really just how they do their.
So I'm thinking that if we are limiting where they can put a well, and somebody said that on a current pad they can drill up to 5 miles, I'm concerned that they will try to put more wells on an approved pad.
So if there's any change to what was already previously approved, I would consider that a new application. So what's been approved is, you see the application, you see what happened at the hearings, and then there's an approval. I can't sit here and tell you what each approval is, but each one was approved with a certain amount of wellheads were
Correct.
approved.
Right.
So if you're gonna come back and you wanna add more, that's a new application.
And that's in the.
And that would
that's in the
be
new
hopefully
ordinance.
denied.
Well, it would have to follow. Well, or it would have to follow the new ordinance. So when they come in
Okay.
for a new application, they wouldn't be grandfathered. They would be under whatever the existing ordinance is at the
Okay.
time.
That's all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Romano, 48 Ridgewood Drive. I live in Ridgewood Heights. First, I have one question to begin with. If we would have all been awake back when they went on Swihart Road, I know there were some people awake and came to the meetings and went against it and everything like that. If we would have not let Range in at that time on Swihart Road, and with the wells and things we have going on there now, at that point, could we have not had fracking? How long ago did Swihart go in? The things on Swihart?
2012,
2012, so like 10?
No, 2010.
2010.
Okay, so if we would have not approved that then, could we have stopped fracking in our area? Because you're saying that now we have to be at a certain setback. We can't go at 2,500 feet because we have to allow them in here.
Right.
So if we would have back then said no fracking, could we have had no
In fact,
fracking?
the law was before the applications came. We couldn't stop it.
Okay, so we had to let them in when they came in on Swihart.
You know that.
Okay.
If they met whatever the ordinance, so there's an ordinance in place at any particular time, and if they applied, whatever ordinance was in place is what applied to their particular application, and it has to be processed pursuant to that ordinance.
Okay. Well, I just want to read a little thing here. I'm not sure if everyone here is aware of all this, It's just something to put in, and I'm sure you all are aware of it because you're looking at all this. The oil and gas industry is exempt, okay, from or excluded from several sections of the major federal environment laws. Now, granted, we don't make the federal laws, but they are exempt from the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, and the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act. So technically, I think that means that there's a lot of things that a lot of industries have to do that they don't have to do. And are they following these? I mean, I don't think they have to, do they? I just want to make people aware of what they're exempt of in industry, because there's a lot of industries that have to follow these laws, and they don't.
But you're saying
No
that's
comment.
federal. And
It's federal. I know
Right.
it's federal, but I'm just bringing it up to people here so they know
Right, Kathy.
that, like a lot of things, they don't have to disclose. They don't have to disclose a lot of things, I don't think.
Kathy, but I think if the state has to follow the federal laws, that's one thing. We have to follow the state laws.
Right, I know that, but I just want people to be aware of what they are exempt of. So we let them in, and I am definitely 110% in favor as getting those setbacks as far as possible as we can. And that's all I have to say, because these say a lot when you're exempt from things like that.
My name is Sarah Martik. I live at 2003 White Oak Circle, Canonsburg, 15317. I'm a resident and also the executive director of the Center for Coalfield Justice. So having attended the hearing last month,
Could you make sure you talk as loud as you
sorry.
can?
Yeah, I'll do better. Having attended the hearing last month, I'm compelled to share a little more in reaction to what I'm hearing tonight. I first have to address jobs. It's kind of the elephant in the room. It's a topic that never goes away when environmental issues come up. I doubt that there is a person in this room who doesn't know someone who works in the oil and gas industry. And from a microeconomic perspective, looking at the economics of a family, a job, but any job, is life-changing. But when you zoom out and you look at the counties in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia where fracking happens over the Marcellus, you will find that those counties saw the number of full-time jobs drop by 2.1% between 2008 and 2021, even when those states as a whole experienced a 3.8% job growth. Income growth trailed the national average by 16 percentage points. The population in those counties declined by 4.8%, while the US population grew by 9%. All of these statistics are available in reports by researcher Sean O'Leary at the Ohio River Valley Institute, which is a regional think tank, and I encourage you to read those. In your decision-making, I implore this board to go deeper than talking points. You can encourage job growth, you can even allow new wells to be drilled while significantly increasing setbacks and setting stricter sound requirements. Any assertions otherwise are just threats. Exclusionary zoning is, in my experience, industry's favorite legal threat. They say that if you dare to increase setbacks beyond the state minimum, you are zoning them out. The state sets the floor, but you can go higher than that. Same with the federal government. But you're not zoning them out. The law does not mean that they must be allowed to establish new paths. The prohibition on exclusionary zoning is designed to protect the reasonable extraction of minerals, which is established in the Pennsylvania Constitution. The Pennsylvania Constitution also protects our rights to clean air, pure water, and the scenic, aesthetic, and historic values of the environment. The Municipal Planning Code requires a balancing of interests. And if, in fact, this board digs deeper into the areas where they might in the future allow fracking to occur, and you find that there are reasonable reasons not to allow fracking, the board could say there can be no more fracking, especially because you've already allowed it here. We're hearing that this is the law as though it's settled, but this is actually an open legal question. It hasn't been answered yet. It's a gray area. So let Range sue you. You can fight them, and if you lose, we'll come back for another round of this ordinance draft, but at least we'll all be proud of you.
Who's gonna pay our bill?
And then one final point, I am a resident of Oak Brook Estates. I believe that I heard that the new map would keep activity away from my home, but I want to remind this board that they are accountable to all residents, not just people who live in HOAs. It's not enough to keep this industry to just industrial zones, which are located near lower income residents and neighborhoods. Setbacks protect everyone. Set them at 2,500 feet and let people waive that if they want to for themselves. Start with real protection as the standard because that's what we all deserve. Thank you.
And due to the late hour, the last speaker is going to be Ms. Blanick. I think she's the last one back there. And okay, I see one more. Okay, you're the last one, okay? Because we're in close, we will have another hearing.
Well, last but not least, I have a perspective that's a little different for this hearing tonight. As Dave has expressed, he worked for the Tribune Review. Oh, my name is Jane Worthington, 723 Wildwood Drive. Dave has worked previously for the Tribune Review and I had the honor of working with him as one of the children that he wrote about was my own child. These setbacks, yes, these setbacks are not just important for the residents, but important for the children. My child was very young, and she was benzene exposed. She was benzene exposed. It has been shown through the industry. The setbacks need to be moved back for everybody, especially for the vulnerable children. For many years, I've had a lot of experience traveling through the country, talking about pipelines, the DEP, the EPA, the Congress, the senators, community leaders, and even Indian tribes. We have pleaded, we have testified, we have brought studies. These studies have been ignored. These studies have been overlooked. Range Resources is a culprit for the safety and the health of citizens, especially those of young children. They may bring industry and they may bring income, but they also bring trouble. They bring health benefits, but also health-related disasters. My family is living that disaster. As a benzene-exposed child, my daughter was removed from a basketball game with purple hands and disqualified. This is not something you want to see. You can put all your operations back. It's been over 11 years I've been out testifying. It's a simple formula. Move back a mile, give a mother a smile. It's not hard to understand. Nursing homes, schools, homes, residents, newborn babies, teachers that have fertility issues, they all need protected. We can't put this near our schools. We can't put this near our residents. We do not have to frack every inch of America. We can spider out. There are things we can do to recover. We can write our ordinances. I feel sorry for the boards. I feel sorry for councils. I feel sorry for senators and governors who never saw this industry coming. And we were inadequately prepared to write the ordinances that we needed to write. It's been 11 years or more. It's more than overdue to rewrite these ordinances. This has pitted families and neighbors against each other. This is so much more than zoning, public safety, code enforcement, and environment. Those are all your responsibilities, but this is so much more. The revenue that we are receiving and the contributions we are getting is coming at too high of a cost. We need to look at who's already affected. We need to look at who is going to be affected. Worldwide, birth defects is on a rise. Worldwide, ADH, autism is all being related to environmental toxicity. I ask that you as supervisors and we as residents insist that these setbacks become truly, truly a high priority to protect children, our residents, and our own township. Thank you.
My name's Janice Blannock, 16 Jupiter Drive. Over the past several weeks, I've canvassed the streets and hills of Cecil. I talked to many residents in our township asking about their concerns, sharing information, and offering support. I talked to parents, grandparents, babysitters, teachers, and a retired minister. I talked to people who were unaware of the proposed oil and gas activity in our community and are now in disbelief. I also talked to many people that were angry. They moved to a beautiful new housing plan in Cecil thinking they were getting away from industry, only to have it right in their backyard. I talked to people who were sick or have a loved one who is sick with cancer. I had a few that weren't interested in talking to me at all. But I also had people who worked in the industry or who work in the industry that said they don't want a well pad 1,000 feet from their home. Many residents believe that the builders as well as the realtors knew what was in the works all along. And I talked to people who knew my son Luke and some of the other kids from Canamac who we lost to Ewing sarcoma and other rare cancers. I have many family members and friends that I've talked to. I've talked to all these people out of love and concern. I talked so much that I lost my voice. Now, this Board of Supervisors is made up of 5 people. It appears that Darlene Barney and Bill Schiffoni are on the side of industry. I'm guessing they profit from it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have no legal expertise, but I think that that is a conflict of interest, as has been brought up before, and they should not be permitted to vote. As for Tom Cassiola, you've always seemed like a great guy, a decent person. My husband's family and yours goes back a long way. My mother-in-law was your babysitter. Some say that you cannot be trusted, but I choose to believe that they are wrong and that you will do the right thing to protect Cecil residents. Cindy Fisher, she admitted she was starry-eyed years ago when the industry rolled in with lots of promises in our community. Now she has seen the harms and the negative impacts. She told Range that she didn't want them to listen anymore, but wanted them to act. She is listening to the residents, and we thank you. That leaves us with you, Frank. You have said that you're a problem solver. Well, we have a huge problem here in Cecil, one that the residents are not at all happy about. And we are saying loud and clear, enough is enough. We need you to fix this problem. As our Board of Supervisors, you were elected to your positions to make decisions on what's best for our township, not your bank accounts, and carry them out. If you can't or won't do that, we, the residents, will respectfully be showing you the door. And lastly, I would urge the whole board and everybody in this room, especially the workers in the oil field, to read this book, Petroleum 238. Like Justin, it's written by Justin Noble. In the last sentence, he says, "My challenge to you is read it through to the end and realize this is not a book about despair. To say it is to know it, is to change it." He signed my book and told me to enjoy it, take away strength and power, use it as a tool and run far, and run I will. So thank you, Justin. And as far as the contributions from Range Resources and all their charitable donations, no amount of money will bring my son back. So thank you all for listening.
Were you ahead of AC?
He wasn't there before. Let him. We have time. Let him talk.
Hi, my name's William Schiffoni, Sr., 1808 State Route 980, Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. I just heard a remark, and I don't know how many people understand what's going on here, but the Schiffoni name is a big name in the oil and gas, which we are not a part of. So I don't know. I know this guy in the green thought that probably, he was blaming Junior there about this. We are absolutely not involved in this. And I just wanted to clarify that because it kind of pissed me off that she brought that up. Maybe somebody else up here is, with the board, I don't know. I'm not involved in that, but definitely we are not. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Sorry.
AC.
Okay, ready? Ready, Darlene? You ready? And go. Okay, so I've got
Wait a minute.
AC rolling, 52 Sycamore Street. Just type me in as the troublemaker. Okay. I got 4 questions. We'll go over them real quick. Then you guys can answer them or not, or tell me to kick bricks. How much is enough when we're just, like the other people said, when is the limit on these well pads? So they can come back at 5 well pads. They've got 111 that the one website touted, and then 68, and then 64. How many permits? So on the next map, I'd like to see dots or something of all of the existing well pads and all of the existing permitted areas that we're grandfathering in, that they're at the state right now. Range is trying to get that grandfathered in before any more changes happen. 2, how many well caps, how many uncapped wells do we have in Cecil Township? And what are they doing to cap them? Are they using the wastewater for the low volume wells? There was a big article, the news crews were out, they're finding them everywhere. I'd like some information because those are creating a lot of health issues, and they're just uncapped. They're not all documented, but I think on Channel 4 News, they were up to 280,000 here in our area. So I'd like to see some information on that. And then I know that she gave us a few of the numbers, but is there anywhere that we can list exactly how much money our township gets from having these well operators, whether it's Range, CXP, anybody? How much money comes into our township through this industry? Not the entire area. I can find the entire area. I cannot find
It's
ours.
a line item budget on our budget, so you can have it easily.
Can you release that and post it?
It's on the website. AC.
Okay.
I can help you find it.
And then last Wednesday, there was a big issue. DEP nailed Range with 9 violations. There's some debate, well, they were using fresh water to wash off the Poly Road. Well, it was only limited contamination into our stream. So I looked into this. So let's say that they used their water trucks, that they take the contaminated out. Per a meeting that was at the Capitol 2 weeks ago, one of the people that was talking on the steps, that was his job, was to clean out those trucks. The sludge left at the bottom of those trucks are some of the most heavy metal and contaminated parts of what they pull out. So if they take that truck, fill it full of fresh water, how fresh is that water now that they just sprayed into our stream? And I want to know, on that 14-page report, how come we didn't have any follow-up? All we get is the laughingstock page telling us it's all BS. It was fresh water. They were washing gravel down. It doesn't matter if it goes into the stream. The solution to pollution is dilution. So I'd like some answers on that.
If we can, we'll get them.
What?
So if we can answer them, we'll get them. Some of them
Fabulous.
have to come from the
And
state.
then finally, just one clear up thing. We're doing a fun day of use, and there's been some concern that Range Resource employees and families are not welcome. That's a complete lie. Any person is welcome to come and see what we're doing and to help our volunteer fire department, police departments, and first responders get some much needed anti-choking life vacs into their trucks, cars, and vehicles to help protect us all. And one final thing I found, LifeVac called me today. Anytime that any of our responders use one of their units, they replace it with a new one for life.
All right. Any board members have any comments? Any board members have any comments before we close the hearing?
Can I say something quickly?
Sure.
I just want to take the time to thank you all for being here. I know that a lot of you have families, children, other things that you could have been doing. It was a beautiful day, and I recognize that this is 3 hours of your night that you probably would rather spend doing something else. But I can't tell you how much it matters to be in this room, for us to hear from all of you. And so a huge thank you from myself and the board members for taking the time to be here tonight.
All right. We are going to schedule another hearing. I think it's going to be on a June, what's the first? June 5th?
Is that the first Wednesday?
First Wednesday, yes. And we will have an updated map, and we're going to get it out as quickly as we can, so you have it, to have as much time to review it as we can get you. So having said that, we're going to reconvene this hearing on June 5th at 6 o'clock.
Well, the thing of it is, I set that timer 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and the time they started after they did. So they had a 20-second grace period. Let her. Well, the thing of it is, I waited until you got their names.
Pleasure meeting you. Thanks for the